In Python, primitive data types like integer, floats, characters are assigned by value. Derived data types like list, dictionary, tuple, and a function argument are assigned by reference. Let's see what this means. Variable rec1 is stored in a list, and that means it is assigned by reference as well as rec2 until location. They are all stored in a list. These are assigned by reference. Variable age1 is stored in an integer. This is assigned by value. Let's look at a simple way to explain how these are assigned. So let's assume this statement age1 equals to 27 is putting 27 inside the bucket and labeling that bucket with variable name age1. So age1 has 27 inside it. Let's now do age2 and put the content of age1 in age2. This is like pouring 27 into age2. Now let's print out the results of this. You can see age1 has 27, age2 has 27. Now let's change the content of age2 to 18. And then let's print it out again. Let's print out age1 and age2. Now you will notice that when we print out age1 and age2 in the first instance, it all has 27 because we assigned the content of age1 to age2. And at the second time, we changed age2 to 18. And when we printed it out, age1 is still having 27 because we didn't change it. And age2 now has 18. This is because when it is passed by value, it's like creating two buckets and labeling each one age1 and age2. Now let's take a look at this example using a list which is passed by reference. So I'm gonna copy this list so we can see it very well. I'm just gonna put it here. So I have variable name rec1 and I want to assign to rec3 the variable name rec1. It's just like I'm doing exactly what I did here. I assigned rec1 to rec3. If I print out the contents of rec1 and rec3 now, they're gonna be the same thing. Let me comment out this two so I can have rec1 and rec3. They're all going to be the same thing. I'm printing out rec1 and then rec3. Now let me change the content of rec1. I'm going to append a new item to it, footballer. Now I've added a new item to rec1. Now let's do the print again. As we did the print, you can see, even though we did not change rec1 and rec3 is having the same content. Now, in the case of the primitive data type that is passed by value, we have one bucket, which is age1. And then when it is assigned to age2, it becomes two buckets. Bucket one is labeled with age1, and bucket 2 also has 27 initially. And when we change the content of bucket 2 became 18. Let me comment it out so you see the result again. Bucket 2, when we change bucket 2 to 18, bucket 2 became 18, while bucket 1 remains as 27. But in the case of a list, when we made a change to rec1, the change in rec1 also reflected in rec3. This is because in this instance, when you're passing by reference, it is not going to create a new bucket. It's going to put two labels on only one bucket. Rec3 and rec2 will be referencing this content. So anytime you change this content, either you change rec1 or you change rec 3, it's all going to be changing the same item. So for primitive, it creates two buckets with each having its label, but for reference, it is just one bucket with two labels. So whatever you change in that content is reflected in the other content. Let me change here and say rec3 dot append, and I'm going to append 45 to it. And you notice I appended football to rec1. It reflects in both data, and when I appended 45 to rec3, it also reflected in both data. If your intention is to make another bucket, then what you need to do is to use the copy method to do this. Now, instead of just assigning rec1 to rec3, that is going to create two labels on the bucket, you can just say rec1 dot copy. The copy method will create another list completely in here. Now look at it right now. I've created another list. When you print out, it printed out same thing, but after you change the content of rec 1, you put football in content of rec 1, you can see rec 1 has football, and rec 3 you added 45. Rec 3 has 45 but doesn't have football. So they are two different records. If I remove this now, in rec 3 will not have 45 with it, but rec 1 will have football. Now there are two different buckets with two different labels.